Episode 17, Dan. We're back again. Some
Big
says
one.
it. Yeah, it is a big one. I mean, we have a lot to talk about. We could get real petty with this really quick, or we could just talk about the state of the business.
We had a lot to talk about 3 days ago. Now we have twice as much to
Yeah,
talk about.
yeah, right. We could see how this goes. If we usually get petty towards the end because we're old and we get tired, so maybe we'll bring it up then. But the most important news: WWE Raw has a home.
As a whole.
Has a
I,
home.
I noticed you didn't say Monday Night Raw. Was that purposeful?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Because that's part of the questions that I kind of want to pose. But.
I mean, there was sort of an answer on that. A non-answer answer, but it was an answer.
So go on when you talk about that, because I did not see that part of it.
Yeah, that was just, I mean, the simple answer on that was Nick Khan was asked, and he said, for now, still plans for Monday night, but a lot can happen in the next 8 months. It's basically what he said to Pat McAfee. He goes, there is opportunity to not have to go up against Monday Night Football. There's opportunity to not have to worry about playoff football, college football, championship game, things like that is what he brought up. But he said for now, that's what it is. But a lot can change. So he basically confirmed that that is the plan as of today, but who knows by 2025.
They've been going up against football for so long and maintaining.
I don't know why they care.
Right. So it's like. That kind of just seems it's like this is what the PR team told us to say, and this is what we're gonna go with, because they've been like. I mean, is it dare to say they're probably just as much a staple to Monday night as Monday Night Football is? Like those have to be
Yes.
the 1 and 1B thing, right?
Yeah. I
Has to
mean,
be, right?
it's Raw is synonymous with Monday
Monday night.
night because it's been on Monday night for what? Basically 30 years? Was it ever not on Monday night? Did they ever move Raw? Did they have a short time where they tried a different night maybe? Am I remembering that correctly? Like when they moved to Spike originally or TNN, whatever it was back then, did they potentially, was it ever like a short time moved?
So I know Raw. So just as a one-off, the Squared Circle forum on Reddit has Raw was not on the air September 4th, 1995, the same night that WCW made the rather genius decision to broadcast their first episode of Monday Nitro right in the same time slot.
Well, they were, yeah, that was,
so
they
that's
were
kind of
preempted though.
so that was kind of like a one-off. But
Yeah, they were.
let me
They
see.
used to get preempted for the dog show. Remember?
So it actually began on Monday Night Raw, January 11th,
Yeah,
93. So ever since then.
Yeah, I don't think it. Yeah, so it's
No.
never not been on Monday nights as far as like its normal programming. Right?
SmackDown has had a couple changes, right? From
Tuesdays,
Thursday night
Thursdays,
and Fridays now.
I think it was on Tuesdays for a little while too.
Yeah, and then I think it. Yep. You're right.
So you're right. I think like Monday nights is synonymous with football and wrestling for the last 30 years. And
well, between 1995 and 1999, what were you watching on Monday night? You were watching Raw.
Yeah.
Everybody was tuned into Raw. There was no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt about it. That's what was on. And then shortly after that came the WCW Invasion, and then the brand extension 2002 to 2005. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, like I would try and keep it if I could, right? Like
I,
you're
I mean, I
you,
don't know. I thought that, but then I think maybe with a new platform, and especially given that this isn't cable anymore, like this, if you're going to make the change, maybe now's the time to do it. I think it depends on a couple of questions that haven't been answered yet, which is it going to be available to restream within minutes of finishing? Like obviously it's going to start live, and then can somebody log on at 1 minute after it ends and watch it again, or watch it for the first time, right? Like, um, is there going to be commercials, right? Like, I like I don't know how that'll work, because not that that'll necessarily change the night, but maybe it would, because you're going to have a shorter format than you used to. You're not going to have a solid 3 hours if you don't have to plan for commercials
well,
in that sense.
you would still probably write for 3 hours, but it wouldn't pan out to 3 hours. Do you know what I mean? Because like you would have to do the pause breaks here and there of like when they switch to hard cam, when they're coming back. But like, so you could just take all that away, and it'll still probably be the same amount of material that they'll probably write.
I don't know. I don't know
I
if
mean, why
I don't
not?
know if that necessarily has to be true, because if like you plan for, in a 3 hour show, if you only have 2 hours and 15 minutes of
Yeah.
TV time. Well, I don't know how it works out, but I'm just saying that,
No,
right?
I get it.
You write for 2 hours and 15 minutes. So now you probably can write for 2 hours and 15 minutes, and it's only going to be a 2 hour and 15 minute show, I don't know if that's true or not. I mean, maybe there are going to be some level of commercials. Maybe they're going to do their own type of commercials. Maybe Netflix is just going to do their own stuff. Now, Netflix is introducing ad supported pricing, I believe, right? Similar to what Peacock does.
Yeah, but
So,
not if you're already at the $20 one. I thought,
no, I know, but you could
right?
downgrade. So, right, but you could downgrade. That's my point.
Yeah,
So, you can pay $6.99 with ads, but those ads are, no matter what you watch. You could be watching a movie and they stick a stupid ad in it, right?
yeah,
So that doesn't change the runtime of your stream. They just pause your stream while they show you an ad. So I'm interested to see if that's like, is this not going to have ads and commercial breaks basically? Because then, now I know you're in a live audience, so it doesn't really matter. Like, it's not like the wrestling stops or anything, but it changes that you don't necessarily have to worry about a match going through two segments anymore, right? Because you're not wasting a 4 minute commercial break where they just do bullshit in the ring because they're waiting to come back to do their finish, right? Now they can
yeah,
just do an 8 minute match that is really going to be 8 minutes, instead of an 8 minute match that really is 12 minutes, because you're going to have a 4 minute commercial break where you're just going to do a few things for the crowd. I mean, it's wild. It'll be interesting. Um, I got down that rabbit hole wondering if that changes their strategy on what day they care to be on, you know?
well, and
Um,
so they could still write for commercials, but the commercials on Peacock seem to go a lot quicker because it's only one commercial or something. So like that could be thrown in too. Of like, yeah, they're still getting somewhat of a pause break where they do picture in picture, but it's not going to be four straight commercials or something. You know what I'm saying?
no, maybe not. I don't know, right? Because like I said, I thought those commercials aren't really planned. They literally just pause your stream. They just, depending on,
Yeah,
I guess it depends
depending
on
on
what
the
you're
app.
watching,
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
and on the app.
like
Yeah,
yeah, it's like they don't they. I know, like I think about Peacock, like when you watch. Well, when I used to have the ad version, right? If you're watching a TV show, they would put the commercial in where it would have been if you had been watching it live on NBC, right? Um, with movies, they just find a spot to kind of work them in, so you don't necessarily ruin what you're watching. This could be totally different. Like, you could end a match and they could stop the stream, run an ad, right? If you had the ad supported, and then when you come back, it goes right to a promo in the back. Whereas if we have the premium version, we just see the end of the match and it goes right to the promo. I mean, it's kind of
Yeah.
it's crazy to
Well,
think
and the
about. It's crazy how this is all gonna work.
crazy part is we could go back to it being a different rating, right? We could go back to what it was when we were kids, like when they showed blood, when they showed like all the things that got them popular, because it's gonna be on Netflix, so they show anything. So like that's
Yeah.
gonna change the whole demographic too. Which I'm sure there'll be some cancel culture saying they shouldn't change, they shouldn't do this, da da da. As we,
Yeah.
have seen with everything that involves wrestling, the internet, and books such as Harry Potter getting banned for no
Right.
reason at all. Um, so like that's kind of crazy too, because it's like, okay, well, for what? For the longest time that the ratings have been this way, they've kind of put the WWE writers in a box and said, "This is where we want you to operate." Now it's going to be like, have fun. We just want a great show. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean,
Like,
yeah. It 100% opens up opportunity
that's
in
crazy.
that sense.
That's crazy. So that's gonna be something. Yeah,
I mean,
it's a $5 billion deal.
I was just gonna say, why don't we talk about the price? That's
Five
wild too.
over the lifetime. So I'm wondering if they're expecting to hit certain. Because if you listen to like any stand-up comedians on any podcast or anything, right? Netflix really doesn't discuss the numbers that you're hitting. So I'm wondering if part of the WWE deal was the WWE being like, you have to tell us like what we're hitting viewership wise. Like I don't like we're not a stand up here. Like we are sports entertainment. Like we are the one and only. Like you know what I mean? So I wonder if they got some principal power thrown in that contract as well. Like
I don't know. Like some of that contract was released right in filings and things like that. I mean, right? So it's an initial 10-year deal for in excess of 5 billion is what the actual like first filing says. They also have an option to either get out after 5 years or extend for 10 more years at the end.
so okay,
Now, I don't know what
so
what the
five
price is when they do that, but
so 5 billion over the course of the time it said. So they're probably just expecting right now 5 billion.
five over 10 is it says the value of the deal over 10 years is five excess of 5 billion.
Oh,
So
so over
5 over
10 years.
10 for
Okay,
sure.
not over
They
5.
can probably somebody reported, and I forget who, but somebody reported that that number comes up because it's basically 500 million a year is
That
what it
makes
is.
sense.
So my thought process is it's 2.5 billion if they opt out after 5 years,
That makes
which is
sense.
crazy. Now, if they extend, I don't know if they extend for an additional 10, I don't know if they get it at the same price or if they have to renegotiate the price, but that's wild too that it in theory could be on Netflix for the next 20 years.
Yeah, and so with Netflix bringing this in, it says approximately, according to Netflix press release announcing the deal, it brings in 17.5 million unique viewers over the course of the year. For comparison, Thursday Night Football can often reach as many as 15 million viewers during a single game, most of them via the Amazon app. I I'm still shocked. Like I'm just shocked that it's Netflix
Yeah.
because we didn't talk about Netflix, right? That was never brought up.
Not really. A lot of people were talking about Amazon
And
and yeah.
Disney, right?
Uh,
At
yeah,
first,
I think so a little bit. I don't know where
Disney,
Netflix
Amazon,
came in.
Peacock, yeah, they must have came in like, or if they've been working on this like all year and finally said, "Screw it, we're gonna go." Like, good for them. But this is Yeah, it's insane. This is a different type of play from Netflix, right? Like we would have never saw this, but we should have known something. Or you should have. I guess we could have had an idea because you've been seeing more high-profile comics get like live specials on Netflix. For instance, like Dave Chappelle did one on New Year's Eve that it was live at 12:01, and then afterwards you could view it again. So I
Right.
wonder if, like, to me, this seems like is Netflix the next big step or the next big party to take the step to we want to broadcast what is cable but stream it? Like, is it like are they like do they have ideas to compete with YouTube TV now? Like, is that what we're getting to? Because I told you before that if you go on the Max app, they now when they switched over to just Max, they have a Bleacher Report tab now where you could just stream sports, and it's just all sports. So it's like it seems like Max
Yeah,
owns
I don't.
Bleacher Sports or has some type of partnership there that where they're streaming those
I
sports.
think I think Warner Brothers owns Bleacher
Yeah,
Report.
so it's like so it seems like we're getting into these little like streaming bubbles here of like, okay, who can you go by? Okay, now who are they gonna go by? You know what I mean? Like this is outrageous. Like now, here's the other thing. Does this help AEW?
No.
Does this help them for the simple fact that Raw's not going to be on air, or is it going to look twice as worse
Oh,
now when when NXT and SmackDown beat the ratings of AEW's Big Show? Because that's what
I
my
I
original
don't
thought
think
was.
I don't know that it I don't know that it helps or hurts them. I don't think it makes a difference.
Okay.
Because like if they were planning on moving their show to Monday nights for some reason, then maybe, unless it's staying on Netflix. Unless it's staying on Monday nights on Netflix, the only thing I would caution is for that, and I don't know, maybe it's just because it's what I used to do, right? Like, I channel flipped back and forth during the Monday Night Wars for sure, but I
Yeah,
always knew if I wanted to, I could just watch Nitro at 11 o'clock because it was on right. It was replayed immediately on TNT.
I forgot about
So
that. I forgot.
right. So like now I didn't necessarily want to have to stay up till 2 a.m. to finish it. And usually the end was the best part, so that was the problem. But if if Monday Night Raw, like if you really are invested in watching AEW and it's on the same night, you could technically watch AEW live and then immediately go to Netflix, or you could watch it the next day, right? Like right now, Raw is available on Peacock, but it takes like a couple of weeks for it to catch up, right? I think. And I'm
It
sure that's ending,
it
but
took so it depends. It depends on what you're trying to watch. I think they're not up to date yet with any of the recent Raw episodes. I think it takes longer than a couple of weeks.
okay. I knew it wasn't immediate. I
No.
just didn't I've never really thought to watch
Like the
episodes of
pay-per-views?
Raw.
The pay-per-views are
No, I know the pay-per-views are immediate. Yeah,
that
that I knew. But
um
weekly cable is not available right away. Like it's the same with SmackDown, right? Like it's available, but it takes a long time because SmackDown isn't an NBC Universal property. By the way, it's funny you just said that about Max because I went onto my app because I like never really looked at it, and I could turn on Celtics Miami, which is being broadcast on TNT right now, and this is through Max, which is interesting. Like
yeah.
you had touched on it. I don't think that Netflix is going to try to compete with like a YouTube TV or Sling or Hulu Live as much as I think they're just going into live events instead of like live cable. Like I don't think they're worried about airing the newest episode of um whatever's popular on ABC on Thursday nights at 8 o'clock, you know. I think they'd rather probably just get into big events or bigger things, and
Sure.
an NBA game, an NHL game, wrestling, is something that makes sense to get into. A comedy special. I read too that I didn't realize they did the Screen Actors Guild live on Netflix or whatever, or
Yeah, I
Golden
didn't
Globes.
know that. Yeah.
Yeah, so like those kinds of things that are like regular events, but not necessarily like watching the newest episode of Breaking Bad back when that was on AMC, right? Like they're probably not worried about providing AMC to you, but it's like I'm going to provide programming to you that's live, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah,
It's
but
good to know though that I can
I
watch
mean,
TNT games here.
if easy, Dan, it's not that type of show. Um, but even if they wanted to, they're bigger than 90% of these like streaming apps that do broadcast like what is considered cable. Like they're just as
Oh
big
yeah.
as. So it will. I guess how I should have phrased it is like it wouldn't be that big of a switch for them to flip if that's the direction they wanted to go in. Be-
No.
because they have the liquidity to go and buy up whatever they want to go buy. Like yeah, they had when they did when they cut down on you using Netflix at not the account holder's house or residence. They had some drop off there, but I think like half of those people eventually returned or they created their own accounts. So they're back anyways.
I would think so too, because they introduced the ability to make a non
Yeah.
family account for like $8,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I
So
did that for somebody, and
do I know him?
so well, the little guy that uses it, which is why I did it.
Aw, he's so
uh
nice. You should buy him an
he's
iPad.
great.
But
Yes, wanted to watch all his. Yeah, I just realized what you said.
but
Um,
here's some clarification for you. With Peacock Premium, you'll get every episode of Raw and SmackDown with current full episode replays 30 days after they air. Every
30
episode,
days.
yes. Every
SmackDown too?
episode,
Did you say Raw and SmackDown?
correct. And for NXT, including full episode replays, those are available the next day.
Well, sure, because they're on an NBC Universal channel. Now, Raw, I don't understand why it's like that.
It's always
SmackDown,
been
I
like
do.
that. It's always been. The only thing that I think was quicker than 30 days is when remember when Hulu was getting popular and you could get like the quick version of like what happened in Raw and it was down to like an hour. It was just highlight.
Oh yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that
See, 30 days. See, that's interesting to me though. I wonder why it's like that, because
is probably a
like,
contract thing, right? Like that's the only way that
well,
it could be
the reason
explained.
yeah, because like Law and Order is available the next day.
Yeah.
It's not available until like 5 o'clock on the next day. If it airs on Thursday, I think you can watch it starting Friday at like 4, 5 o'clock, something like that. It's just not available that same night, right? Now, you can watch it live on cable.
Yeah.
You can watch it live on Peacock. You cannot watch the replay of it until the next day. And there's other episodes that are like that. Like some of the Bravo shows are like that, and some of the
Of course, you would know.
well, I know from the past, but um
The iPad
so
cast.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Just I just you have a how do I put
Yeah.
this? Mentally unstable past. So I'm just making sure we clarify it all.
Vanderpump Rules and Below Deck were always watched the day after. But
Yeah, you pumped
so
away.
I am a little surprised it's 30 days for Raw,
I
because
do
it's on USA.
Yeah.
You know?
I knew it was a while. I thought it was longer than 30 days because it feels like it, but that kind of makes sense now once I go back and I scroll through it. But right there, if from the other articles that I read, it's going to be WWE is going to have the power to do immediate replays. So right there, Netflix is already winning.
Yeah.
already winning. You know what I mean? Now,
Yeah.
there's a few questions that the Ringer brought up. I wanted to get your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
The current deal for Raw is up in the quarter of 2024. So they have until October 2024. Which means they will be without a home the last 3 months of the year. And in that time is when WWE will be building up its final pay-per-view of the year. November, Survivor Series.
Survivor Series.
What are your thoughts?
My guess is they either, well, Survivor Series will be on Peacock. That's not changing.
Right, because
Now, at least domestically. Internationally, it's changing in
So-
January.
here's the crazy thing, though. The Peacock deal isn't set to expire until 2026. So we might have, the way that I view it,
We're gonna have to have both.
Raw. Well, yeah, that. Damn, we're gonna have both anyways. Jesus Christ, we don't do anything else.
I was thinking of getting rid of Netflix. I'm not even joking. I was thinking of getting rid of Netflix, or at least downgrading, because I rarely use it. And then this got announced, and I'm like, now I'm not gonna touch it.
Dan, being a director of operations, you need to treat yourself.
up.
You need to treat yourself. You're the do.
It's just a matter of rarely using it.
You're
you know?
the do in a world that really can't right now. You know. So let me pose this to you. That runs out on October 2024. Okay. Peacock's not till 2026.
Yep.
Does WWE just go stream then on Peacock for 2 months, 3 months, 2.5 months, whatever, and just do
No.
everything on Peacock?
No. My guess would be is they're going to either get a short extension with USA for probably pretty cheap. I think that's the easiest, makes the most sense. Or if USA, which I can't imagine USA would give them trouble about that, because they just bought the rights to SmackDown a few months ago. So, right, and that's starting next year. So it's not like USA and WWE are breaking up or anything. They're just changing the show they get, and they paid a hell of a lot less for it, SmackDown, than what this Raw deal is. So my guess is they make a bridge deal with USA, probably is pretty cheap in comparison, but they just get it done. Or if it doesn't look like that's going to happen, they go to Netflix and they say, listen,
Start
we
early.
need to start this a little bit earlier. Like, let's figure it out. And like, you know, I'm sure like there has to be some money there, but you know, they just gave you, they just promised you $5 billion. Like,
So, here's another prospect that the Bringer breaks up. So WWE's weekly talk show, The Bump, has been showed on YouTube. They also have done their 2024 preview special that they just had on Peacock. But the WWE is sitting at more than 99 million subscribers on YouTube. The Bump airs there, as does the post press conference of the pay-per-views. So can you imagine? Can you imagine WWE just says screw it and does 2 months on YouTube? 2 months on YouTube.
that'd be kind of crazy. I don't see that being likely either.
No,
but that would be
I
crazy.
think the most logical thing that you have here is they work out a contract, right? Because SmackDown is gonna be on USA, right?
Yeah, and that doesn't start till 2024, right?
2024 or yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
Actually, I don't know when that starts.
Or
not 2024, 2025.
yeah. So yep. Or
Oh no, October 2024.
So
that's why that's like that, because they're
yes,
going to start showing SmackDown. So, but I don't know, what are they going to do? Like,
that's a good
because also,
question.
like, there's no confirmation that SmackDown's staying on Fridays either.
No,
So,
so here's the other thing. They just worked out a deal with CW, right, to put NXT over there and to put NXT
mhm.
on the app. Do you say, hey, CW, you want Raw for 2 months and just
I mean,
sweeten that deal?
CW's owned by NBC Universal as well, aren't they?
I didn't think they were.
I thought they were owned by like USA and all that. Like it's all the same. They're all in the
I
same.
think
Oh no,
Paramount
Netstar
Global.
Media Group.
Yeah, and it's with
Well, it's
Paramount
it's
Global.
it's and Warner Brothers.
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess so. Nextstar Media Group, but um, owns 75%.
yeah. Warner
Okay,
Media
so
and
yeah,
AT
so
and T.
maybe they could. Maybe they could. Although, I wonder from CW's point of view, is it worth it to do a 2 month deal? Like, yeah, I guess because it complements NXT, but is
For
it really
Raw,
worth it?
yes. Yes. You bring that in for 2 months and Raw's hot, and then that leads into you just having NXT? Yes.
They're
Those are,
they're gonna have NXT starting in October
yeah,
2024, also.
yes.
So,
That's going to be massive numbers that you can easily
but only for
transition
two
over.
months.
Doesn't matter. You still have them for that 2 month period. And if everything works well with the app and there's no streaming issues, people be like, yeah, I'll come back here to watch NXT. We know how lazy some people are nowadays, Dan. Like, come on. But yeah, I mean that's a big question. Here's also a question, right? We talked about the 3 hour show. What happens to WWE's library? Does that go somewhere
So
completely separate? Does that go to
no,
Netflix?
well,
Like,
not until the Peacock deal is done.
correct.
So I mean, except internationally, it does. The network. So right now, internationally, it's still the WWE network.
Correct. But that shuts down soon, right?
Just
That,
North America. Yeah, well, it's going to shut down the same time the
yeah.
Netflix deal starts because it's going to move to Netflix for international users.
Yeah.
So it's going to stay on Peacock through 2026, and then I would assume, yeah, Netflix would be in the running to, you know, top off their deal with the library and new original content. And because I thought I read too that there's some original content that they're gonna do. Yeah, it does say, okay, so Netflix will be the exclusive home of Raw in the US, Canada, UK, Latin America, among other territories. Likewise, Netflix will become the home for all WWE shows and specials outside of the US of it as available, inclusive of Raw and other weekly shows, as well as premium live events are moving to Netflix for international. Original series and forthcoming projects. So they're already setting up the idea that we're going to have a library. We're gonna have it. It's just not going to be in the U.S. until we figure out that deal. So my guess would be is that'll be a pretty easy transition, assuming everything goes well in the first year, for them to say, yeah, let's become your new people in 2026 when that deal is
So,
up.
but here's the thing, though. There's been a bunch of original content that they've been working on that's not on the Peacock app or anything right now. For instance, the Vince McMahon special that's supposed to be coming out first part of 2024. The first part comes out on Netflix. So I'm
Yeah, but
wondering,
that's not a WWE project.
they're partnered with it. They have it.
But they're not producing it. It's not their content. They might partner with it, but they're not producing it. It's not. It's not.
The only thing that WWE produces though is the
It's not like the W. It's
documentaries,
not
like the
like
Punk one.
it. Yeah, it's not. I don't believe. I'll have to double check. I don't believe that's why it's on Netflix, because it's not done by WWE like the Ric Flair one was, right? Or the Cody Rhodes one, right? What was that one called?
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. I can picture it. I just can't remember the title.
Right. So,
Yeah. So I mean, that's a big thing too, right? And then, so when the public live events leave Peacock, does
yeah, and
Peacock die?
who knows if that documentary will still come out after all this too? Anyway,
Well, yeah,
um,
yeah, we can talk about that later. But like, is that
yeah, okay. So I'm sorry, I just want to clarify on it. So it's a partnership, but it's Bill Simmons and
okay?
some other guy that are doing it. Um, Although McMahon will have the opportunity to review clips, he cannot provide input until after final cuts are made. Um,
So, yeah, but he might be in prison by then. Um,
yeah, I mean, I think it could potentially get scrapped because although this had said that like this documentary is not meant to be a fluff piece,
no,
it will
it's the
cover
good and bad.
his scandals and forcing his way back into WWE from retirement. So I mean, maybe it's still because it sounds to me like it has a little bit of a dark side of the ring feel. Um,
Yeah, this is wild. Cause then, like, I don't know, like this opens up a door for things like we weren't expecting by Netflix. And then just think about if Netflix goes out and gets some NBA games, because that contract's due up as well.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like,
Netflix is in the game.
this is a power move for sure. Like, this is
They
crazy.
basically, they looked at Amazon and Thursday Night Football and then Peacock and a playoff NFL game, and they were like, "Oh yeah, watch this."
Peacock paid 110 million for one wild card game. One wild card game.
Yeah, but I mean, they got something like 20 million new subscribers or
Yeah,
something
no, I
crazy.
know, but I'm just stating. Like,
Yeah,
this just seems like the economy's just fake at this point. Like, that's what it seems like with all these numbers being thrown out there. It just seems ridiculous.
I mean, 5 billion over 10 years like doesn't seem real, but like,
Um, so yeah, that's the WWE Netflix deal. Still a lot that we don't know, right? There's a lot of fluff that came out from both sides of basically stating what they expect and how great this deal is and what this deal means for sports entertainment and blah 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 and all that type of stuff that you kind of expect to hear, right?
yeah,
But I guess in a way to just kind of transition over, Dan. Do you know who's sitting at the head of the table right now? He
I
tweeted it.
do. It's not Roman Reigns.
Who tweeted it?
Dwayne.
Um. So
I don't know. Can I call him The Rock? He owns that trademark now. Can I call him that?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I call him whatever I want to call him. Yeah, that's fine. Um.
I knew he didn't own the Rock trademark, but I was listening to I don't know what I was listening to, probably Eric Bischoff, either that or Busted Open, and they were talking about how because he doesn't own the trademark on his movies, it had to always say Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Yes, it is
But in
specific.
my head, I thought that was weird too, though, because it was like, well, if you don't own The Rock, like, how are you even using it with your regular name? But I think they said something along the lines of like that was something that the WWE allowed him to do, as long as it was with his real name too. But um, now he got his trademark back, which is kind of crazy too.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting, right? Like And he tweeted about it too. His tweet was the best thing, talking about where he's come from, what his grandfather has done, and he's helping. He's humbled to have the seat at the table that has decades of history and family legacy for me. A table that my family helped build, being on the TKO board of directors and taking full ownership of my name, The Rock. It's not only unprecedented, but incredibly inspiring, as crazy as my life is coming full circle. And basically stating he's sitting at the head of the table. I believe he put in the tweet as well.
He did.
So,
And to acknowledge him, he ended it
acknowledge
with
me.
acknowledge me. Yeah, no, like he went 100%
Storyline.
full bore into that one. Oh yeah, like acknowledge me. I'm
So
sitting
does
at the head of the table. Like,
Roman address this on Friday? Because I don't know.
I think
Because
I
don't know
don't think
how
so.
you don't.
I don't think so.
He
Is he slated to be on SmackDown?
Who knows his schedule? He got worse than a Brock Lesnar
Well,
schedule
they're
prior to
usually
being
good about saying it.
prior to being a tag team when he wasn't supposed to be a tag team. If you know what I mean, Dan.
That's terrible.
You laughed, you jerk.
Terrible.
But my thing is, he used your phrase. He got back on his hashtag, which was crazy popular during his feud with Cena. And he's telling you he's sitting at the head of the table. The shirt that you sell millions of per year, he's saying that's his now. If you're WWE, you have to address this. There's no other way.
So Roman is not currently.
Then you have to have Paul address it. You have to have somebody address the comment.
Right. I mean, he's not being advertised, but
no. You have to have somebody. Because just think,
I tend to think you're not going to get anything, and they're going to wait till Royal Rumble. There's going to be something with Royal Rumble, I think. Like I could be wrong, but like I don't know. You tell me, because I don't know what's going on anymore with him in movies. But it's like, is he kind of stepping back from movies a little bit with all the shit he's doing? With like they just merged the XFL, right? With who was it? USFL, I think, right? He just merged those companies. Now he's on the board of TKO. He's been out there like teasing coming back for a match. Like
he's been doing
kind of like taking a break from movies, because he's got I mean, I know he's always had a lot on his plate, but
he's been throwing more into the $7 production crew. That's what he's been really doing. I mean, I haven't seen anything, and I'm probably on the internet 13 hours a day.
You usually know what's going on with movies, so I didn't know if there's anything.
I mean, I know
because I thought there was like another Jumanji coming. I thought I had read.
Yeah, it's stuff that they're green lit to work on, right? It's not anything like the Once Upon I think he's in Once Upon a Studio, I think, was something he was last in, and it was like a live action animated crossover for Walt Disney Studios. I know because my son is the biggest Moana fan that probably ever existed, since we take a 15-month-year-old to Hawaii like it's not expensive. They're doing a live action of that. He's slated to work with Kevin Hart on some things. I think The Rock and Kevin Hart has kind of taken a step back, like after their past couple of films have not hit like the numbers that they thought. So maybe they're starting to realize that there's some oversaturation that's kind of occurring. But yeah, I know it's interesting, right? Because it's like, I mean, so like supposedly right now, like he has this one called Red One, in November 2024. Uh, Fast X Part 2, supposedly April 4th, 2025. Moana, the live action,
So if that's coming out, like
June
right, then that
27,
those movies
2025. The Smashing
like
Machines TBA, The Red Notice 2 TBA, Jungle Cruise 2 TBA, Jumanji 3 TBA, San Andreas 2 TBA. So it's kind of like he has a lot of things that he's slated to be or like be on, but it seems like football, TK board, and wrestling are now his current. I'm here for right now.
well, and I'm sure anything that's TBA is also like has potential to like be dropped, right?
Correct,
Like,
correct. There's no
and then
con.
also anything coming out within the next 12 months is probably close to post production or is now in post production. No,
Yeah, it's
doesn't post
usually
production take like 8 months?
so it depends. Like a premium like studio probably takes over a year because they gotta cut it, they gotta
Right.
show it internally, they gotta link the music to it. Sometimes they cut it again. Like one of my
So right.
favorite.
Sometimes they do reshoots too, don't they?
Yeah, like yeah, based on what the studios want. So like, yeah, I know when he was when he was he Black Adam? What was he? Um, yeah. So I mean, yeah, he was Black Adam. Yeah. So like, Black Adam had they didn't get the cut that they wanted from the studio, and he had reshoots of $70 million, and that took like an extra 6 months to a year based on what was going on. So it's like we normally don't know, right? Because he's always flying around. Like every day he's somewhere doing something.
Right.
So it's kind of like, but from what I read earlier, and from what I heard just from the other podcasts and everything I listened to, it definitely seemed like, um, he is, definitely more of a business man right now on that venture with football, combining that, being on the board at TKO right now, you know, and then now wrestling. So like, it's gonna be interesting, right? Like, it's gonna be like, how often do we see The Rock? Like, if does The Rock come out at the? Well, do you want to just skip to that part of the show and talk about the Rumble? Because
Sure.
we're headed there anyways. So, apologies for my ADHD taking over. Been a rough work week, but pose the question: is this the most important Royal Rumble that WWE has ever had?
Most important? No, I don't think so. I know you're gonna follow that by saying then what was, but I don't know that it's most important as much as like right now it's the everything they're doing currently is becoming like harder and harder to make it perfect, right? Like they keep raising the bar on what they're doing. And right, like, and now they've got all this stuff going on. Like you already had the Cody stuff that was just lingering out there. Then you bring in Punk. Randy Orton returns the same night. You've got The Rock teasing some stuff. You have you had LA Knight, who was like on this trajectory that certainly flattened off a little bit, but hasn't like gone down. It hasn't crashed and burned. You had AJ Styles come back. You've got like just all this stuff going on heading into the the best part of the year for wrestling in WrestleMania season, the road to WrestleMania. And it's just like I just keep thinking like how can they keep doing it? But they do. So I don't know if it's the most important one as much as it's like it's just like the hardest one because it's the next one now too, like which sounds like such a dumb like sports analogy, but it's true, right? Like this has to be a good show to set up a great road to WrestleMania. I have no doubt that it won't be, right? Like, or that it will be. I think it will be. It's just like, it's just crazy. It's it's just crazy what they've got going on. Um, I guess it could be very important because if they flop, then what? But I just find it hard to believe it'll flop.
So your comment about it being the most important because it's the next one, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I'm gonna be honest with you. But I think you just answered the question by explaining it why it's not. Because you just explained why. Because I think this is the most important WrestleMania we've ever had. Because there was a lot of people pissed off at the last one, correct?
Not me.
Here we go. This guy's never angry about anything. Jesus.
No, not me because Dan, I explained it back then.
Don't start, Dan. Don't start.
No.
Can we get through the show?
No.
Can we get through the show?
Because people that were upset about that were not looking at the global picture and the long game on it. It would have been a great feel-good moment had Cody won. It's going to be even greater when he finally does. And
you had so much concerns that they weren't doing it right with Cody.
I know. I have gone up and down on this, and I haven't listened to my own thought process from, May of last year, which was give it more time. I did think that I was mad at the draft, right? When they drafted them to different shows, and I said, I think they're screwing this up. And then it was like, well, we'll see. He's going through this stuff, and he made a couple of mentions here and there. We'll get back to it. Then we come to, we're gearing up for Rumble season, and then CM Punk comes back, and I'm like, which nobody could have ever predicted that was going to happen at Survivor Series, right? Like, I mean, in the moment they were, but at the end of last year's WrestleMania, it's not like anyone was sitting here going, in 4 months, CM Punk, or in 5 months from now, CM Punk will be back in WWE and we'll have another storyline to figure out. And then the other thing with The Rock too, but we're not done yet, and Cody is still at the top. So we'll see. It's still TBD. Now I know I have flip-flopped back and forth on that, but it is still TBD. Sorry. Just is what it is.
I just want to stop this podcast right now. I just want to.
Also, by the way, it's the most important because the next one, look at this guy. Look at this guy. He's going to go get the belt. This is what's happening. He's going to get the belt. I guarantee it. Yep, there it is. There it is. I called that. I told all the listeners and viewers he's going to get the belt. I also, it's the most important because the next one, yeah, that's like a football thing, week to week, but
nobody believes it. Nobody believes
it. It's also kind of true though, because you can't have a good WrestleMania if you don't have a good Royal Rumble.
Yeah,
so
can.
it is the most important one because it's the next one.
Yes, you can.
And
how many WrestleManias have been great, and the rest of the pay-per-views that year subpar? Subpar to being okay at best. A lot of them. Yes?
Subpar. I mean, I'm not talking about because what I was going to say too is you don't have to have a good Elimination Chamber after Royal Rumble to have a good WrestleMania, but Royal Rumble sets up WrestleMania. So it has to be good. It has to be a good setup.
Dan, you see this right here? First of all, I don't even know where to begin because you just pissed me off for the rest of the night. Because you just can't stand by an idea. The snowflake in you is that strong.
It's just
I don't know how you're a director of operations. Do you flip the operations every day? What are we doing?
No, because my opinion evolves over time.
Oh, here we go. You're very agile. We get it, Dan.
That's what's happening. My opinion has been evolving.
You're not. You just said it's flip flopping, so that's not evolving. If you're saying one thing going back.
flip-flopping in the sense of like I went from like not worried to not worried is essentially what happened. But I never said that it was a mistake not to have Cody. Like I never said last year's WrestleMania was a mistake. I've always believed that it was wait and see. Now what happened in the interim was it got a little bit of like I'm a little nervous on this wait and see, but I'm sticking it out. I'm just not too happy about it right now. They, I don't know yet, and then they came back in my mind, so we're good again. And that's how I'm a director of operations.
Okay, first of all, the people that say it's the most important one because it's the next one never win anything in life. So I'm gonna need you to take your participation trophy back and stick it somewhere the sun don't shine. Okay?
That doesn't make any
That
sense.
it
That
it
doesn't make any
doesn't.
sense.
We're just happy to be here, but the next one's the important one. No, just go win. That's what people do. That's
Yes,
what
that's
people do
also true.
right here.
But are you supposed to be worrying about 2 games from now when you have a game in front of you? No.
No, because you walk in like your dick's already been there in the room, Dan. That's what I do. Your dick's already been there for 6 months because you win it no matter what. Okay? So let's just stop with this. It's the next one because it's the important one. This isn't a Disney broadcast, Dan. This isn't a Hulu Prime broadcast. Jesus, you're getting me going. Secondly,
it just doesn't.
Secondly, your explanation.
It
It does. It's big brain thinking, Dan. Big brain.
No, it does.
Big brain thinking. Big brain.
Okay.
Secondly, your reasoning of why it's not the most important one kind of explain why it is the most important one then in your eyes. Because you said it is kind of important that it sets up a great WrestleMania. So then if that's not true, then like I said, you don't need a great pay-per-view before it to have a great WrestleMania.
But you asked, is it the most important one ever?
But you just answered that question by saying it's not, but you kind of proved it is. And it only took you 57 minutes to piss me off this episode. Congratulations. The quickest time frame. Yeah, that's what I mean. Under an hour. You're getting good at this.
That's not quick. That's not quick. I've done it quicker before, for sure. I think I've done it in the opening one time.
No, and you forgot.
You said it. Huh?
No, and I was just saying the people that you were talking about being at Rumble and WrestleMania, you also forgot to mention it's going to get even tougher than for them if the rumors are true that Okada has signed with WWE because he's always wanted to perform at a WrestleMania. So that's a whole other different category that you're bringing into your broadcast because he is a legend internationally. And what the viewership's going to do to just see Okada there for what? You think his first WrestleMania would be 7 to 10 minutes, probably? Maybe.
Well, especially when your, in theory, flagship show is moving to a new broadcaster in Netflix internationally, and all the other stuff that's going to go on it. But
and then you bring in Okada, he brings that heat because he's supposedly signing with WWE, but then he's going to start off at NXT. So you have him pop in at the Rumble, or you have him pop in at WrestleMania, and he can eventually bring all that back to being, oh, I blah blah blah, I saw him this, and he's on this show. So it's just like, I feel like this is why this is the most important one ever, is due to all of the options that they have. It's very possible for them to turn this into a blunder and be terrible. But do I think they're going to do that? No, because I think Vince is at home in his panic room waiting for the FBI to come. He's nowhere around this anymore. I have complete faith that Hunter and if Sean's involved and the writing staff's involved, I think you're really going to see this be one of the greatest ones, and this is probably going to go down as the best one. This possibly could go down as the best Rumble of all time, and that's saying something. And I think if it goes down in people's eyes as that, I think it has to be the most important one, because then it's probably going to set up the best WrestleMania of all time. Because you could possibly have Punk and Rollins on one night, and Rock and Reigns on the other night. I mean, since they've been doing the nights for WrestleMania, has there ever been anything close to that? I don't think so.
Since doing 2 nights.
I mean, or you could just view them as one separate night each if you want. I think it's closer to catch Punk and Rollins than it is to catch Reigns and Rock. Because I think the only thing that you could do with Reigns and Rock is Rock versus Hogan, right? That would be the closest thing. That would be an icon versus an icon. Like, that was the thing, right? And I put that slightly over Rock versus Cena or anyone else. Like, Rock versus Hogan was, okay, he's the best of his generation. He's the best of his generation. Let's see who still has it. And I don't think that was the same conversation that we had when it was Rock versus Cena. There was actually bad blood there for a bit. There was no respect there between any of them.
Right.
But this is just, it's straight icon versus icon. That's why I feel that this is the most important one, because this could set up a like, these two pay-per-views could easily set up a generation of wrestling. Easily set up a generation of wrestling. You got Punk back, you got Rollins back. You're probably going to have Gunther have a good showing. He's going to be the perfect bad guy for what, the next 7 to 10 years? You think? Barring any crazy injury, right? You got Carmelo Hayes that's probably going to be involved in some form. He's a generational talent that's going to get pushed. You got Drew McIntyre that could probably make a last couple of year run at being elite. No pun intended. Like, you could, like, the options that you have here, you got Cody, who's currently the face of the company, trying to tell his story. Like, you know what I mean?
Trying.
Like, yeah, trying. But, like,
they keep bringing back more people.
Yeah, but it's like,
harder.
And then you're going to bring in Okada. Okada's not going to be in NXT for long. There's no way he's in NXT for longer than 3 months, I think. And I think he's only in NXT.
I'm surprised they're doing that anyway.
The only reason I'm thinking of it is that they can just teach him how the cameras work here. Like, how to pick up because it's shot differently here. And I think that's the only thing. I mean, and if you supposedly you have Logan Paul stick around for the next generation. We've already seen what he can do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's why I feel like this is the most important one, because it's like, I don't know, like, Monday Night Wars was iconic, right? Like, we remembered everything we've seen on every episode of those, right? Like, that, like, I feel like these two pay-per-views, no matter what's on the cards, you're still gonna sit down, you're still gonna watch them, and you're still gonna remember these two, just based on how crazy it's been in wrestling this year. Like, these are gonna be two pay-per-views that stick with you, whether you like it or not. Like, they're always gonna be in the back of your mind, and that's why, like, I feel like this. I know a lot of people are saying, well, when they had this Rumble, or they did this, or this, and it's like, I don't think we've had a pay-per-view in a while, or back-to-back pay-per-views, right? Because Mania's next, or am I forgetting one? No, it's next, right?
Royal Rumble, then Elimination Chamber.
Yeah, sorry.
Mania.
Right. So, I don't think we've had, like, a pay-per-view in a while that's been, like, iconic, and 2 out of the next 3 could become that easily. Just based on who they put on the cards. Just based on paper. As you would say as a football reference, because you're a football guy. Like, I just... You know what I mean? If you don't agree, I could get my attorney involved, but he's busy playing Diablo right now, so...
He's not that. He's only mediocre anyway.
That's all I can afford.
No, I get it. I just I guess what it is the show, the expectation is so high that you just can't come up short, right? Like
Right.
you just can't come up
Agreed.
short
Agreed.
because, like anybody should be able to like book this show and it should be enjoyable. And not only that, but I think too this is what I was saying before, they've continued to put out product or surprise after surprise and match after match and product after product that is just continues to grow what they're doing. So if they just can't come up short in these big tentpole events now, right? Like Elimination Chamber, like we'll see what they do, but like I'm less concerned about what happens at Elimination Chamber, um, because it's just like it's just not that big of a show, right?
Yeah.
So like it needs to be good, but it doesn't need to be great, right? Like what are you really gonna do? It's like
Yeah. That one's
because
definitely going to be somewhat of a letdown for sure. Like they're just going to have to with that one.
unless they do what you think they should do and put Rock and Roman on that show.
I don't think they're gonna. I personally would, because it's what, a 4 a.m. start time for us on the East Coast. 5 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m.
4:30, I think. Yeah.
All right, so cut it in between. Look at us being finance guys. Um, I I think they should, because I feel like you could still have Cody tell his story at Mania. But now I've been reading all this week how people close to Hunter have been saying don't be surprised if you don't see Cody headline, which could be just throwing smoke on the fire, like just you know what I mean, just
Yeah,
hiding it.
and to throw people off a little bit, or
Yeah,
to
which is
also
fine.
kind of reignite this idea of like if people like get a little down on it, then when it starts to happen, they're like, oh crap, here we go.
Yeah, so it's I don't know, it's interesting, right? Like it's like right now all we know for sure are the men's Rumble match, the women's Rumble match, Reigns versus Orton versus AJ versus LA Knight, and Logan versus KO. I think.
Yeah, no, that's all we have. The 4-way,
Yeah.
the 2 Rumbles, and yeah, KO and Paul. That's it. That's all we have right now. And honestly,
So, quick question for you.
they might not add anything else, which means probably both Rumbles are going an hour.
So that's part of the question
each.
I had for you. So if they don't add anything, do you think Seth was supposed to have a match?
Probably.
And then they just pulled it because of his tear, right?
Probably. He was either supposed to have a match, or yeah, they had planned something, and maybe they'll still throw something out there. Like they can always do, a Grayson Waller effect type promo show, or
Just
TV,
skip it.
right?
Just skip that. I would rather see.
Well, I'm just saying,
Miz
like
than...
if they want time filler, they'll do a Miz TV.
Bring back Hogan so he could say the wrong location again.
Well, they might do that, because he's teasing he's got one more in him for the 40 years of WrestleMania.
Well, and did you see what Bobby Lashley said?
No.
He said, "You bring Hogan in this ring, I'll be the one that throws him out." Or he said, "You bring Hogan or any other WWE legend into this Rumble, I'll be the one to throw him out."
I mean, well, that's another thing I saw somebody post, and I agreed with the post, and I think you will too, but I'll ask you. It's been a while since we've had a Royal Rumble where they haven't announced 22 of the 30 people doing it. As of right now, we only know of like 7 or 8 people.
I think, yeah.
And in the women's one, I think we only know of like 5 or 6 maybe. I like that, right? That like I think it was last year or the year before, right? Like, or it's been kind of a pattern for a while. They show you the graphic and there's like 22 people on it. So it's like now there's only 8 technical surprises. And of those 8, you assume only 2 or 3 at most are going to be true surprises. Um,
I think you have.
so
I think you
I
have.
like this.
I think you have the 4 final guys in the men's match already announced. You have 8 total. You have 5 in the women's. My money on the final for the men being the final 4. Cody, Punk, obviously. They're going to do Gunther again. And I'm torn between Damian and Drew. I'm thinking it's going to be Drew.
I think that's right. I mean, Damien, the only reason I don't see it for Damien is because he's still got the briefcase.
Yeah, but this kind of extends that, right? Because he has that till July, is it? Or no? When?
He has it until the next Money in the Bank match. Yeah,
Oh,
so
July.
that would be,
Yeah, June, July.
That's June, July. But I mean, it doesn't really extend it. It's a second shot. Is what it is.
But that's what I'm being. So then technically, him and Finn can both. Like, if he gives Finn the briefcase, then Finn has the briefcase and he has the shot. So then Judgment Day could have 2 opportunities to go get all the titles if they really wanted to. But I think the final 4 are Cody, Punk, Drew, and Gunther. I think with the showing that Gunther had last year, there's no way you don't put him back there. I don't, because I think in 2024 for somewhat of a letdown, if Roman is still champion, I think we get Gunther versus Roman somewhere.
Somebody was talking about a rumor that they were trying to bring Brock back to go after Gunther.
Yeah, well, again. And then Wall Street Journal had a few things to say today, Dan. So I don't know if that's going to work.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean,
because is it true that Brock has never had the Intercontinental Championship?
I don't think it's a title he ever went after.
Yeah.
What do I know, Dan? I just have 2 podcasts. No big deal. I'm a podcast guy. But
anyway.
Yeah, so I mean, back to your question that I think you were posing to me as a question that you really didn't ask as a question. You just answered your own question, which is fine, I guess. But I would never cut it as an auditor.
You are fucking spicy tonight. Jesus.
I know. I know. I pick up the car tomorrow, Dan. I'm getting a little bit antsy. But and then
nice of you to tell me what it was after I asked, and you were like, "I only said I was trying."
Yeah, I just finalized it on the way home today, so that's why. But Becky, Nia, Bayley, and Bianca. So did they just give us the final 4 for the women's as well, and everybody else is filler? I think you get Becky and Nia as the final 2, because I think that's a feud that they want to run with for a while. But it's not.
That could be. But then if they're the final 2, one of them is taking a title shot, so then you're not running the feud with them.
No, but I think Becky gets the title shot. It's very unbelievable that she can beat Rhea. And Nia keeps screwing her over. What a friend of ours wants to see was Bayley bounce around and win the Rumble, and then bounce her way down to Rhea as well for the title.
Yeah.
So, now,
yeah.
There was one other thing I wanted to talk to you about the Rumble. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
So have you ever been involved, so growing up, did you go to people's houses for the pay-per-views, or did you just, watch it on your own?
Say it again?
So for the pay-per-views, right? Did you ever go to, other kids' houses, or did you just, stay home and watch them, and then just talk about it the next day at school and stuff?
Um, so Survivor Series we always watched at my grandparents' house,
That's right.
me
I
and my
remember. Yeah,
cousins.
remember you telling me that.
So that one we always watched. WrestleMania and some of the others like Royal Rumble. I honestly I went to my grandfather's to watch a lot of them, but that was back when cable was analog and he had one of those special boxes that descrambled the pictures on those channels. I usually went to my grandfather's, and sometimes my cousins were there, and sometimes they weren't. So I guess the answer would be more that I just watched them by myself and talked about them in school than after, because my grandfather was watching them too. But that doesn't count.
So I was just reading into this today when I got a little bored. There's been I just usually watch it with my dad when we actually like had to buy them, and then through like college and the first real job, I just watched them at the apartment because basically I was too broke to go anywhere to watch it. So, um, that's how that panned out. But I was reading this on the Scored Satirical forum. So there's some people that will do you draw a number, right? And say like everybody puts in like $20. And then if the number that you draw, 1 through 30 wins, the winner
Oh,
gets to keep the $20. It's
yeah,
pretty simple, straightforward.
yeah.
Um but but then there's one that does that as well, but then a thing that they add on, they use Vegas betting odds, so each wrestler is given a score. So Triple H and Roman are worth 1 point, while Del Rio is worth 50, Sin Cara is worth 200. Since there were 5 of us in the party playing, we'll get 6 wrestlers on our team, and at the end of the night, we add up our scores, and the worst lineup wins the prize. So they go by the worst lineup. And then there's another one that this person said they just take a shot every time there's a disappointing entrant. We get pretty wasted by number 10. Which is kind of funny too, right? Like it's.
Right, right.
And then there's the sad stories. None. I have no friends who watch wrestling with me, period. Okay. Well, hopefully that guy's not just hanging around, if you know what I mean, Dan.
That's rough.
Yeah, for him it is. What a loser. But
I'm not to say it, but okay.
but yeah, I mean it's big, right? This is a big pay per view for us. This is like I don't think I've been. Have you been this excited for a pay per view since the last Mania?
No,
And the
not
best
really. Not really. Survivor Series wasn't as
exciting, right?
exciting as it was a good show, but
Yeah,
I wasn't super excited about it. Um, so yeah, no, definitely not since last year's WrestleMania. Um, for sure.
all right. So I don't know. Was there anything else that you wanted to talk about?
Well, I have a question for you
Yeah.
on whether or not you think we will see in the women's Royal Rumble, will we see Jade Cargill?
Oh, a surprise entrance. So that's kind of what I wanted to see what you, if you wanted to do next. We each take
Oh,
3 from each side and see where we go.
okay.
But Jade,
Okay.
so
That's fine.
I kind
My
of
first one in the women.
no, that's a good one. The only thing about Jade that concerns me, right, is she was taking a lot of slack because it was being reported she wasn't at NXT training, she wasn't at the performance center, she wasn't backstage helping out, right? Well, a lot of the dirt sheets and somebody's drunk uncle Meltzer, and a lot of the dirt sheets that live in their parents' basements and don't shower, felt the urge to go on and basically attack her and say she's not on TV because WWE paid for something they thought they were getting, and that's not quite it. Well, did you happen to see what the true story was? Her mother passed away.
That'll do it.
So that's why she took time away. So I hope she's doing better with everything she was going through. I can't fathom how that feels, but I would love to see her get her pop in Royal Rumble for sure. I would love to see her stand there and just throw 8 to 9 women straight out of the ring. Just the overhead
Well, yeah,
press that she
because
does and just chuck them. Because it would
yeah,
shut up every tweeter that's been giving her crap since she signed. Because then she's
well,
the
and on,
next big
on
thing.
top of that, even if she's not 100% ready in their eyes for a one-on-one match, you can hide a lot in a rumble.
Well, you can hide anybody that's athletic, right? You can hide anybody that's athletic because they can get out of the way. They can pick spots to do things.
Yeah.
It's not like it's just two people in there and they just have to dance. Like they can piece it together. But I only want her there if she's in the right state of mind to do it because I don't want any fluke injuries. I don't want any botches to happen because I don't want her to have to go through what she just went through with the dirt sheets and the smellies because I don't think that would be fair to the start of her career. But I don't think people understand quite what her free agent signing is for WWE. Like they basically just went to another company, took one of their top 3 athletes, and said, "We can give you everything that you want," and just took her. Just took her. And I don't think we've ever seen that to since WCW took Scott Hall and Nash? Like, that's the last time, right? And I'm not saying she's going to have that quite of an impact, but for them to just go down the street and be like, Jade, you're with us now. Like, that's huge. And that's a huge hole in that company.
Right.
So I hope she's able to do it. I would love to see her out there just chucking people left and right. Because I would love to see, like, if you get the final 3 and it's Becky, Jade, and Nia, and both Becky and Jade somehow find a way to pick up Nia and toss her over, like, the place would erupt.
Yeah.
But I think we can also get Bianca and Jade in there and have a feud. Or I think you see Jade and Bianca team up, and all of a sudden they go along with the Street Profits. I re-downloaded WWE 2K23. I deleted it. I re-downloaded it again. I deleted it. I've been on such a tangent. It's been insane. But, so, your top 3 for female are... Go ahead, sir.
Top 3 surprises?
Yeah, that you think.
Well, yeah, so Jade.
Yep.
On the women's side, it's tough. Jade. I seem to think like Trish Stratus will come back for the Rumble, not to win it, but like she hasn't been around in a while, right? Like,
So that's a surprise to you, though, even though she was active like all of last year.
well, she hasn't been active in a while, right? Like when was the
Okay.
last time
All
she
right.
wrestled?
All right. We don't need to argue the whole show. Jesus, Dan.
I mean, you were pretty argumentative on that. Oh, well, that's a surprise to
Well,
you.
that's just not a surprise to me. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
All right, and then my last one, way out of left field, then Alexa Bliss.
Oh wow.
I don't know if that's really possible because didn't she just have a kid like 3 months ago? I don't know if she'd be.
It's possible they can.
She'd be like, well, I guess her 12 weeks maternity leave would be up.
Oh, so now she can't get 12 weeks leave, Dan? Is that what you're saying? Wow.
I said it would be up.
Wow.
So she would have gotten it, you dick.
Hey. Watch your language. Who are your top 3 for the men?
For surprises, that one, like, so.
It can basically be anybody, right? Like, it's like.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who's not active right off the bat, like, I don't know that there's. I mean, Okada, like, I think could be like the big surprise if it's true, right? They could throw him in there, Okada would be a big surprise. My God, do they dare? Well, now, who knows now? But I would have said like that they would bring Brock back. So who knows if that changes now? Bring him in again. That's not. I guess that's not as big of a deal.
Do you
'cause, like,
believe it should change?
with Brock?
Yeah, with the story that just came out last night and today, do you believe it should change?
I think it's tougher with Brock than it is with Vince, like on some of this because they, I don't believe, I don't believe that there's any accusation that Brock actually did anything.
He just
It was
brought up,
that
right?
it is that Vince kept bringing him up, and that was part of the deal. And I think if anything, it was that Brock responded and said, "That's your turf," right? Wasn't that text message? So like it's almost as if Brock kind of was like, "I'm good, man. Like,
Yeah.
you're
Stay
a
away
crazy
from
old,
me. Yeah.
yeah. Like, I like you. Let's not ruin that."
Yeah. Let's not push this.
So, I don't know that it necessarily should change, but maybe it does change in this corporate world they find themselves in. And then after that, like, I mean, yeah, there's just so many people it could be, like whether or not it's The Rock for some reason. I wouldn't be all that surprised if like Cena came in. I mean, what's going on with MJF these days?
Shoulder.
Anybody know? Anybody know what his contract status is?
Shoulder. That
Yeah, but it,
shoulder screwed, Dan. They said like at least 8 months with therapy or like surgery in 8 to 12 weeks. Like he's out for a while with that shoulder. They gotta clean everything out of it. I thought the flash report was it's that bad.
well, if he had, when was his 8 to 12 weeks?
Wasn't it like last month?
Yeah, it was. Because I think they think his contract was up the 1st of January.
Yeah. Hang on, I'm still building my guys here.
These Vegas odds. This is funny because I wanted to say his name, but I didn't think it was like I didn't think it was like true, like really something I should say. Vegas odds have Big E on the list
So
as a plus 5,000, which
I got him on here. That's one of mine.
You think they do like an Edge-like return for Big E?
Yeah, why not? Because everybody loves him, and to WWE.
Oh, 100%. The place would go crazy, but I don't know if he's physically able. Like,
well, he's been cleared, right? Like he's been cleared, but like he's taking his time. He said.
I didn't think he was cleared.
I thought he got cleared. They were just working on getting him ring cleared. Like he got cleared physically to go into the ring, but he's getting ring cleared. I thought. I don't know. I read too much, so I could have been confused.
Let's see. I'm gonna look.
Okay, so
I mean, in November, he said he still has no timeline.
Okay. All right. So here, do you want to hear mine then, or do you have anything else that you wanted to add to those?
Nope. I want to hear yours.
All right. So I have 4 for the women.
Well, now you're changing the rules. You only gave me 3.
I know, but I just thought of 4 though.
I'm only kidding. Go ahead.
Sonya Deville.
Oh, yeah, there you go. I didn't even think of her name.
Sasha Banks.
Oh, I should have thought of Sasha. That was stupid.
Naomi.
Okay.
And AJ Lee. And AJ would just be a one-hitter. Like she does this and then she's back to retirement.
Right, which like with the women's Royal Rumble, they do that all the time.
It
used to be.
Well, they did it with what's her name? With wasn't it Taker's wife last year?
Yeah, Michelle McCool.
Yeah.
They did it with Kelly or whatever the hell her name was. They They did it with and they've done that a lot.
They did it with Tori Wilson once or
Tori
twice.
Wilson, yep, they've done it. They did.
Because that was a memorable one for 13-year-old me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. They did it once with Beth Phoenix too, and
Yes.
then they did it again.
And then Beth stayed around.
And then she came back. Yeah, but they used to do that a lot, mostly because they didn't have as big of a roster. They'd bring back all these older superstars, female superstars, and then you wouldn't see them again.
Well, they brought back fabulous Moolah, right?
Oh yeah,
when she was like 85.
They brought back Medusa or
yes,
whatever the hell
yes.
In WWE, I forget what she was in WWE, but
okay, yeah. So that's my females.
That's a good list. That's a good list.
The men. Ready?
The men. I'm ready.
Big E. Jake Paul.
Jake Paul. That's a good one. He was at the Performance Center, wasn't he?
And Hogan.
Oh. I mean, that's a long shot.
Yeah, but they've been talking about him a lot this week, and we normally don't hear anything about it. But I do like your pick of Cena. I do like that pick. For some reason,
I just wouldn't be as surprised.
No, but it is.
They keep bringing him in for stuff.
Plus,
he came out.
He said he had 3 years. Yeah, he said he had 3 years, right? And he's done.
No, less than that.
Oh, really?
I think he was on Logan Paul's podcast, and he said something along the lines of like, he knows now. He's like, the sun is setting.
Yeah, he knows.
I can still see the sunset, but it's on its way, and I need to decide when and he wants to like have a retirement go out match. So he says he has to figure that out now.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's 3 years. I think it's like
Entertainment Tonight says he's retiring from wrestling from WWE within the next 3 years.
I'm surprised it's that long, but maybe. The way he talked about it on the podcast, I thought he meant like
it could be right
this year.
Like if he gets a scary fall or something, and then like his studio team's like, John, we don't need to be doing that anymore. Did you see how much you make over here on HBO? Like
it's funny too because he said something along the lines of like, I recognize that the product is crisper, faster, stronger than what it was when I was doing it. He's like, the athleticism to do it is times 10 of what it was when I did it, and it was there was a lot of athleticism back then. Like, he's basically saying like, I recognize I can't keep up with you young kids anymore. Like,
yeah,
maybe he comes in and he eliminates Punk, and it's Cena Punk.
Again, that would be cool. Question.
I mean,
would you have The Rock come in the Rumble? Or would you save him for the four-way match?
If you have him, I assume it's for the four-way to set off the storyline. But I suppose you could have him in the Rumble. I guess it really depends on. I think everything has changed now because I don't know if they know for sure what they can do with Seth. I think they're trying to figure out now, meaning before Saturday night. Will Seth be ready for WrestleMania, and can we do a story with this, or do we have to scrap it and go a different direction? I don't know, with or without that belt, but either way. And that probably changes what you do with the Rumble too, right? Like, so do you have Rock come in and win and say, that's it, I'm going for Roman, and it's going to be for more than just the belts, or not? Or do you have Rock come in and screw something up for him? Was it you who said something to me, or maybe I listened to it on a podcast of like, they floated this idea. Rock screws something up for Roman, Randy wins the four-way, and then Cody has to face Randy at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I told you.
To finish the fight. Yeah. Well, it's credit you another time because I think I heard that on a podcast too. So you were on top of that with them. So, and that could be cool too, right? But like, I mean, there's so many different directions, but I guess it depends on what you're doing with Seth. Or if you don't think Seth can do it, do you either strip him and make something out of a vacant title?
You have to
Or
strip them, right? Like, there's no other. Like, strip them, have a small tournament, have your 4 for the tournament, those 4 go. That guy wins, Seth comes back healthy, and Seth's on the chase then, right?
has WWE ever done interim?
I don't think
Yeah, I don't think they
so.
do either. I think they've only ever vacated, and then
Yeah.
what they do is when Seth comes back, he can just say, "You never beat me for this," so he gets a match.
Well, he might be the
Um,
real world champion? Wow.
maybe,
Wow.
maybe. Yeah, he'll just
So
keep his belt.
WWE has it, NXT has during COVID because Jordan Devlin couldn't travel because of COVID restrictions on the NXT UK brand.
Yeah, okay, no, I was just wondering. I couldn't remember if they had ever done it, right? Because the reason I asked that is because a long time ago, didn't I thought the Warrior had the
Well,
belt, and somebody else did at the same time too, and they went belt for belt.
but technically, if you remember back to August of 2022, USA was requesting an interim champion due to Roman not being around.
Yeah, instead they made the consolation championship.
Yeah. So, I mean, technically they wanted one, but didn't get it. Probably storyline, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting, right? It's interesting. It's just kind of like there's a lot that can occur, right? Like it's like
There's just so much. That's why it's like you can't come up short in the show, but at the same time, like if you come up short, it's like failure, like major failure.
yeah,
Like
because it's like how did you come up short?
right, because you have multiple options of people who can win the Rumble that will make sense and be a good ending, right? You have multiple options on how this four-way can end. You have the ability to disrupt it with The Rock or Brock or whoever to get you to the next level. Like there's just so much you can do here. Like you said too, you could bring Hogan back for no reason at all other than to just bring freaking Hulk Hogan back and like see, and that turns into something. Then people are gonna be like, "Oh, is he getting one more WrestleMania match?" Like,
Or
because
yeah,
he's never had a true retirement match.
who Hogan?
Yeah,
He had the
he
Rock
they
match, and then he came back as Red and Yellow, right?
right, and that like retired Hollywood, but it
Yeah.
wasn't. He and actually they were Bully Ray was talking about this. Hogan's last match that he actually wrestled was a 6-man tag for TNA in like England or Ireland or
Yeah.
something. That just happened to be the last match, and then he either got injured and he never came back or whatever happened. Like he's never had a true retirement, and he's never had a fake retirement like Michaels or Flair or any of those guys, right? Like he just stopped wrestling one day, which I guess is part of the problem when you don't want to hang up the boots.
I don't think he
You know,
ever gets it now that Vince is gone permanently. I don't
I
think
don't know.
I don't think
I
he
like
gets it.
I
He's
I
too
used
old.
to think that.
He's too old.
I don't know.
And if
I
it
used
looks
I used
bad,
to think that, but I feel like Triple H is much more like open minded if he thinks it can it can get traction. All he needs is for it to get traction.
Goldberg
And
versus
he'll
Hogan.
Oh my god, that I wouldn't want to see, but I just don't want to see Goldberg. Oh, there's your surprise, not Goldberg. There's your surprise
No,
entrance. You just made me think of it because I said I never want to see Goldberg. Let's bring Ryback into the Rumble and let Punk eliminate him.
no, everybody backstage hates him.
I know, I'm just saying, like that would be funny.
I don't even think like I would think if Ryback walked into a building, I physically don't think the other wrestlers would allow him to make his way practicing his walk down the ramp. They would
He
be
would also get
they
he
would
would get
be
booed.
yes, they would be
Big
on
time.
him so bad just based on like the stupid stuff he said over the years. They would destroy him. And there's not a wrestler's court anymore to protect him. So
What about Taker?
supposedly he's looking jacked. All the articles I read and like the one man podcast show he's doing or the one man stand up show where he tells stories.
Yeah.
They said
the one
this is the best he's ever looked. Like he looks huge, they said. Like he's back to like he doesn't have the bloat belly anymore. He's like it they said it almost looks like or the journalist said that it almost looks like he's just been focusing on like dropping the weight and not even like working out for like size. That like with him just dropping the weight, his like natural like figure just shows. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like just kind of like how people say like Kevin Nash just walks into a room and he catches everybody's eye. Because he's always going to be the first or the second biggest guy in the room. Yeah, I mean, I could see it, but
the problem is like he doesn't win it, so then like he has to get eliminated. And what are you doing?
Eliminating the Taker.
What are you doing eliminating? Like who are you getting over and for what purpose, right?
I don't even think
like,
you get anybody over anymore by that. I think he's just like I think you get people over because the person can say I knocked out Taker, but for the fact with the crowd's just gonna be like, oh cool, we saw Taker. We don't care, blah blah blah. Eliminated him.
No, probably not. But like the only reason you're gonna do that is if you either have a story you want to build, and you're gonna have them wrestle at WrestleMania, which would be friggin' nuts with everything else that's going on, or you like want to give a little bit of shine to somebody who can say they eliminated them. And you're right, it's not that big of a deal. But like, so that's why I kind of think too, though. What are you bringing them back for? You know, like, and unless just because you're gonna let him do something with somebody, like I don't know, that would be nuts too.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because like the only thing that sucks is like everything we're gonna see tomorrow and the screenshots that we're gonna be sent are, oh my god, I caught blah 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 at the airport. Like that's all it's gonna be all day.
Well, he's in town anyway because he's doing a One Dead Man show.
Yeah, but I'm just talking about like everybody in general, right? Like,
yeah,
people don't seem to yet realize that even if Kevin Nash shows up, it's because he's personally invited by Triple H to sit in Gorilla and go over the show. Like,
well, he wants to be
for Punk, right?
He wants to be in the Rumble because Punk is back.
Now, does he come out as what? Big Daddy Cool? Or does he come out as like NWO Nash?
I would think NWO Nash. Like I think he would come out as Kevin Nash.
Wolfpack comes out with the Wolfpack. Brings.
I mean,
Conan with him.
I think he'd do a little. Oh, that's a good idea. I think he'd do a little bit. Or no, Sean Waltman probably. But I think he would come out. Well, remember they brought him back as Diesel. What, 5 years ago or whatever?
Longer than that, yeah.
Was it longer? But they brought him back as Diesel, post NWO days, and that was a little weird.
Yeah, I think they brought him back like that when you were 30. That's at least.
Okay. Knock it off. But anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that would be cool, right? Like,
I think he would come out as Kevin Nash because he already said he's not dyeing his hair back.
No.
So
he came out January 30th, 2020 or 2011. So 13 years ago.
That was 12 years ago?
Yeah, 12 and a half. Yep. Match number 32.
You're not wrong. I was 30.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
I wasn't trying to be wrong or trying to be an ass.
Well, that's something new. But anyway,
do they bring back Kane? And then Kane can tell us all about his pro-life speech as he comes down the ramp?
Yeah, he'll probably be wearing his red hat with white
Yeah.
lettering on it.
Big red moron.
Okay, so that was 2011. Yeah, no, I think if he did anything, it would be as
But bro, you've
Kevin
seen
Nash.
how big he is on his podcast, and he says he still
Oh,
can do the 5
well, his his
moves of
stem
death.
cells, his stem cells have been like
Yeah.
a huge thing. Like, he's getting Kurt Angle. There's another guy. Kurt Angle's supposedly going to the guy he went to help with his neck and stuff.
Yeah, I'd heard that. I hope Kurt can get some relief from that, but from what I've heard before, when I think Kurt's already tried the ones down in Mexico, and he said it lasted for like maybe a month, and then he was back in pain.
Yeah.
When he was on Rogan, he said he went somewhere and he had it done, and it was. He said like it lasted maybe a month,
well,
and
Rogan,
then everything
right?
was back.
Yeah, Rogan's supposed to help him too with his neck.
Yeah.
Rogan's gonna get him to the guy that did, I forget which UFC fighter, like to do his neck better. But I think Nash is connecting him with the stem cell guy to help because that's been helping Nash.
Yeah, because I think Kevin
whatever.
goes down to Panama, because that's where the
Yes.
best guy is in
Yeah,
Panama.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting. Yeah.
Nash and Punk, that would be so fun.
Yeah, I mean,
there's a lot of stuff they could do. There was like I read one rumor about whether or not Austin would like come in for it just for the hell of it, like.
Yeah.
Which would also be weird to put Austin in it, but.
Can you imagine you get Austin hitting at 31 and then Rock at 32?
Bonus entries?
Huh? Oh no, it's 30, right? Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, 30.
So
it's like
29 and 30.
Well, last year was only 29 because Rey Mysterio.
He won, Dan. Like we heard, he won. He won.
Actually, I heard that like a few weeks
ago.
Oh
my god!
To tell you that.
Oh my god!
That technically he was the winner because he never. Technically, the match isn't over because he never entered the ring.
Oh.
Yeah. So I thought you were giving us a couple of extra bonus, like, they decided.
Yeah, for some reason I just went to 31 and 32. That's my bad. My bad.
But yeah, just Royal Rumble, 50.
Can you imagine though? Like those two hit back to back.
I mean, that would be great. Honestly, like, how about Austin Rock at WrestleMania? Oh man, so much to do, or they can do.
Yeah, it should be interesting. I don't expect them to screw up. Like, I really don't expect them to screw up because I think those that are in charge now realize how important this is, how important their first show in Australia is, and how important this WrestleMania is. Just based on everybody they were able to bring back for this period of time and that contract that they just got, like, things could get wild fast. So it should be interesting. I'm excited to watch it wherever we end up on Saturday night.
I'm gonna send that message right now.
So
see what happens. This is what happens when our buddy gets a real job, goes back into the real workforce.
He probably has bowling or something.
Oh, that was last time, remember? That was last time.
Well, if you didn't get it kicked out of other people's houses because of a spoiled chicken wing.
Yeah, I haven't heard from
our attorney.
Either.
So
I haven't heard from him. I didn't ask him.
I mean, it's a big weekend. I was gonna bring up the Vince McMahon stuff, but I'm tired of talking about him. I don't know how.
I mean,
you feel about it.
I don't think we need to go into.
No,
like everybody's gonna know about it.
I just hope this is the thing that TKO makes him just go away for good.
So did you read their statement? If not, I'll read it to you. It's short and sweet.
Yeah, go ahead.
Now I gotta find it. I had it up and
There goes
hold
the
on.
show. There goes the show.
TKO response. Hold on.
There goes
Okay,
the show.
here it is. I do think we should talk about this statement for 5 minutes.
Yeah, okay.
This is what a TKO sports spokesperson issued the following statement in response to Variety's questions regarding the allegations. And this is it. Start of quote. Mr. McMahon does not control TKO, nor does he oversee the day-to-day operations of WWE. While this matter predates our executive team's tenure at the company, we take Ms. Grant's horrific allegations very seriously and are addressing the matter internally. End quote. What I thought was interesting about that was that they made a point to point out that to lessen his role immediately.
Yes.
He does not control TKO. That is true, but he's the freaking chairman of the board of the company. So, I mean, he obviously has some sort of control. I know he's not R.A. Emanuel or whatever his name is, right? But he's up there. So I thought that was interesting that they distanced and lessened his role immediately. And then addressing internally, what does that really mean? And
he has to be gone. It's just he has to be gone. How many times do you get this?
The other thought I have on that, because I think you're right too. I think this could be it for him. But you have to imagine that they knew this was coming a couple of days ago. These kinds of complaints and lawsuits don't get filed as surprises. I'm sure an attorney had already sent something out saying yeah, we're about to file this, whatever. That's just how it works, right? I'm sure they were working on bringing The Rock on anyway, but was bringing The Rock on and the other guy they brought somebody else that nobody's really talking about too. But
the private guy, right? That they filled the last time?
Yeah. And he's like an AI expert too, I believe, or whatever. Adding those two guys, is that also a little bit of, we knew this Vince McMahon thing wasn't going away and we might have needed to move quickly. Let's get some more people on this board, maybe. I don't know. I don't know that for sure, but
yeah, it's interesting, right? Because we heard no rumor of Rock being interested in anything like this. Because we've always heard he can't come back to wrestling because he's too busy with the Hollywood side of things. And I know this isn't wrestling, but this is still busy. And the guy that you were thinking of is Egon Durbin. He's the managing partner of Silver Lake Technology. But yeah, it's strange, right? It's and
you know what? There it is. Executive and chairman of the board.
And at the same thing, at the same time, how can you go into your next board meeting and look the 3 women that sit on your board in the face and not be disgusted? Because if they wanted to, they could just drop. And then you have 3 other spots to fill. And then you look like a disaster of a company that you kept Vince around, but these 3 decided to voluntarily drop.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I don't know how, at the very least,
the only thing that concerns yeah, go on. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I was just gonna say, I don't know how, at the very least, you don't even temporarily remove him. Pending,
he has to be permanently gone. He had to pay out on the last however many lawsuits. You put the thing in his contract of behavior detrimental to the organization. If these text messages are even remotely close and they're tied back to him, He's facing 20 years in prison for something that happened in 2022 when they started talking about a deal. He has to go to jail. He has to go to prison. He has to. We do this all the time where we protect these creeps. And it's, the sad part is, TKO went through not the same type of thing, but they went through the domestic violence thing when they had Dana caught on tape smacking his wife and choking her in the club. We didn't hear a goddamn thing about that.
Yeah.
So it's like, do I have faith that TKO is going to do the right thing? No, I think they're going to pay Vince to walk away.
Well, I think they have to pay him to walk away. That's part of that clause, right?
But it doesn't.
They have to.
But if
they have to execute that, they can force him out, but they got to pay him.
Yeah, but if they have that clause where it's contract detrimental to the business, they can go after everything that you have earned with them. It's the same thing when we're at the banks and we get that vice president title. If we do anything outside of work that is detrimental to the reputation after the bank, they could come after us for it. They could come after us for everything we have, based on how big of an issue that we create for that said corporation. But at the same time, too, like, it makes you wonder if Stephanie and Linda was finding out about this stuff right when the Wall Street Journal stuff was hitting, and that's when they just kind of walked away. Stephanie quit because supposedly to be with her kids, but it was widely known that Stephanie's kids were usually at a lot of the WWE events, so it's not like she wasn't spending time with them. Like, that's like, this is like, he is, if these are even remotely true, he is a monster that we've never seen before. And he has to go. He has to go. And that's kind of all I wanted to talk about it, because I'm just getting tired of, because like, this thing comes out and we have such a pay-per-view on Saturday. And it's like, it's not that I want this to be swept under the rug, but I just want this to be dealt with quickly.
Yeah, I
make an announcement.
I don't disagree.
He's gone, and let's get on to the pay-per-view. And then hopefully he gets the 20 year that he deserves if he's guilty. Like, it's just, I don't know, it sucks, right? Because we grew up and we're like, Vince is the man. Vince is the man. And now all of a sudden it's like...
So, like, I don't disagree. I agree with everything you're saying. The only thing that I don't necessarily, like, worry about is Saturday. Because for me, regardless of if, like, there were times when he's quote-unquote calling in and changing the show, I generally globally have felt like he hasn't really been involved with WWE creative and day-to-day in enough time that, like, I don't necessarily feel like this overshadows the show, because I feel like the show is Triple H's, right?
Oh, I agree. I just don't want this to take away from the fact that, like, some wrestlers we haven't heard of before are going to go work their ass off and put on their best act ever. But then, like, they might be questioned by, like, their family or friends afterwards. Hey, what's going on with all this Vince stuff? It's like, I just don't want this to take the shine away from the pay-per-view. That could be an iconic pay-per-view. That's kind of what I mean by it. That's just the fear, because, you know, like, an outside source, we're going to hear about it all weekend, about the Vince stuff, just based on WWE's going to be trending nonstop. Like, and it's just, I hate those type of experiences of where you could just cut ties right away and just make him go. Like, just make him go.
I assume that's where they're headed, because I really think that this statement they put out moves to completely, like, diminish him, probably because they know where they're going with it. They just have to, you know, regardless of however many clauses is in his contract, there's some hoops to jump through to initiate it. You know, it just doesn't happen in 5 hours. You know, like, but I think you could see tomorrow at the earliest, and probably more likely maybe next week is when they announce he's gone, or they're whatever, they kicked him off, they're suspended, whatever the language is. Um, and I think I just get this feeling that that statement is for. Um,
So what are we doing for the Rumble, Dan?
I don't know. Going to your place, I guess.
Uncle Dan will I part 2.
That's right.
But yeah, like I
gotta teach Wyatt the Ric Flair strut. So
yeah, that's all I need. Him doing that now. But
that's the first thing I'm trying to do tomorrow is to teach him the strut.
but yeah, go on with your.
I just think that statement, you just like you. It's not even like you have to read between the lines. It's like,
No,
he's literally the executive chairman of your board, and you just said he doesn't run the company. Which, like I said, I understand on a flowchart hierarchy, part that's true, but in all reality, he's at the top of your company. There are only
without a
three
doubt.
guys. There are only 3 people higher than them.
Yeah.
Higher than him. So, like, there's Shapiro. There's 4 people technically. Shapiro, Emmanuel, Andrew Schleimer, and Seth Krause. But my guess would be is that Schleimer and Krause don't actually have a ton of authority over him. They're just higher on the food chain. But Shapiro and Emmanuel are the only people he reports to. He's the executive chairman of the board. Like, that's it. He appointed 5 of the 11 people on that board, and now 6 of the 13 on that board. So he has power. So to come out and immediately say he doesn't run TKO, okay.
I just hope the thing is, like, this is not an ongoing story because Vince is fighting it. Like, I hope they tell him, you're out the door, and if you try to fight this, we will take everything you have left from you. And once again, is this going to open up the door for additional SEC charges? Because in this article, it said he paid her to go away, and gift cards and cash as well. So that's additional hush that he probably pulled from the company that nobody knows about. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's one of the worst parts about doing this podcast is I wish we didn't have to talk about these type of issues, because honestly, he shouldn't be involved, but it's like, it just sucks, because it's like, I feel like we're in such a great state right now for wrestling that to be dealing with this crap is unbelievable.
My guess is TKO is probably going to take care of it in that sense, and then we just move on. Like, and
I'm hoping
that's the best that can happen. Is that they get rid of him. He, goes away, and what's. I mean, at the end of the day, too, it's because you just said, like, we grew up worshiping what the guy did with the business, and now we find out all this.
The goddamn monster.
Like,
yeah,
right. So now, and I don't feel bad for him one bit, but it does suck for wrestling fans that now he's completely ruined his legacy.
Correct.
A little bit the legacy of the company, and now you can never celebrate what he did in wrestling.
Nope.
I'm going to be interested to see what people like Eric, Hogan,
and say about him.
Bruce, like, Bruce won't say anything for now, but like,
I think Eric will.
I want to see what those guys say, because they all talk about how much they love him, and a lot of them say it in the vein of like, the prior Hush thing. Yeah, okay, he was having an affair, like, but this is a whole new ball game. This isn't just having an affair,
this is
right.
This is
like,
this is 20 years in prison. This is 20
Right.
years in prison.
Right. Um,
And that's
and that's
just
why I'm saying, like, you can't, like, you can overlook an affair, right? People have affairs. It happens all the time. It's a very, like, common person thing to do, is having an affair. Doesn't make it right, but it's just easier to overlook over time because you're only harming yourself and the one person, and you're not, whatever. This just brings it into a whole new realm. So, Eric Bischoff talks all the time about how, well, up until now at least, has talked all the time about, what he did with his personal life and the affair and the affairs and the stuff like that. I don't necessarily respect that, but I respect him as a businessman. I think Eric can say that on Monday when he goes to record his
no.
podcast.
You can't draw that distinction anymore.
No.
You can't draw that
And
distinction when you're facing 20 years in prison, and this lady's life is ruined
it's a
multiple
form of
times
terror.
because
It's a form of terrorism. I mean,
and just think about all the crap she's probably getting, because dirt sheet people have probably found out where she lives, her phone numbers, her emails. Just think about all of that terrible crap that she's probably getting right now for people that can't grow up and understand how bad this is. And I guarantee there's a million Vince fans that are like, show the proof. I don't think he did this. This is just to get paid. But at the same time, how is it just to get paid? When he signed an NDA with specifically her, and then he goes and violates the own NDA. So why'd you have it in the first place then, Vince? So, but yeah, we talk too much on this. He's a scumbag. I'll probably donate the book about him. I don't even want it on my bookshelf anymore. I am just it just sucks because this casts such a dark cloud over something we both loved growing up, continue to love, do a podcast about, by the video game for, like, just something that we're just so into. And he's just kind of like one person that's just ruining it. But besides the darkness in which this podcast has ended, which we gotta do a better job of ending without this crap, because that's just terrible now that I think about it. Rumble on Saturday, big excitement, build into the biggest WrestleMania of all time, even though Dan doesn't want to admit it because he's a football guy.
it'll be the biggest WrestleMania of all time because it'll be the next one.
Yeah. Anyways, you see what I deal with, people. But Dan, was there anything else you'd like to add?
No, this is gonna be like 3 episodes in a row where we've really not talked about the other company.
I'm okay with
There's
it.
nothing to talk about.
I'm okay with
look
it.
At this. The world could be crashing around WWE with what we just talked about, and we still don't even care about AEW
because somebody took Tony's Twitter away. That's why.
What a world this is. Like, I want to go back and listen to like episode like 1 through 5 to see how much we talked about it, and just
it was like
man,
60% AEW.
Right, because we thought they were growing and they were doing
hot.
something, and it was like, oh, this is good, and then Punk, like, right, like, it was like, wow.
So,
and now, not a thing.
Yeah, so we'll have to see where it goes. But yeah, that's it. Botch Wrestling Podcast, episode 17, Royal Rumble Special is what I think I'm going to tag this, and Vince is a scumbag. New issue of Pro Wrestling Illustrated is now out. Judgment Day won hottest thing in wrestling. Agreed. Match of the year, Rhea versus Charlotte. Ooh, that's my expression. And Wrestler of the Year, Seth Rollins. Well deserved. But that's it for now. We'll be back. I'm going to try and shoot for early next week just so we can do a review of the Rumble, because chances are we're not going to want to talk about the other company. And from here on out, we're no longer talking about Vince. That's what I'm standing by. So, thanks for tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe, wherever we are, wherever you find us. Adios, people.
Goodbye.